everyone. We here at Command Stack have a special promotional announcement. Golden State Games open for registration for World Qualifier events in Star Wars Armada, X-Wing, and Legion. These events are taking place in the San Francisco area November 5th and 6th of 2022. And as of this recording, there are still plenty of tickets available. Look for tons of prize support from the AMG Championship prize kit and many other supporters. If you are interested in participating in one of these events, through September 30th, you can take advantage of the early bird special ticket pricing. Additionally, as an official promoter of this event, Ion Radio is able to offer a limited number of additional $5 off discount codes. Use the following code IONRadio5OFF. Tickets can be purchased at the website below, https://gamescapesf.store/Golden State Games. We've also linked to the event packet where you can find more useful information. Ion Radio is a proud promotional sponsor for the Golden State Games 2022 Star Wars World Open Qualifiers.
Welcome back to the Command Stack. I'm John, and today we have GenCon 2022 Day 2. Who do we have with us today?
Well, I'm Ken.
And I'm Ryan.
Sadly, Garrett was called away on a super secret mission and will not be able to join us tonight, but we're going to continue on without him. So if you haven't already, you should go back and listen to our episode 5, which is our Gen Con Day 1 overview, where we talk about all of our lists and some general thoughts on Gen Con and the meta. So today we're going to be focusing more on the top lists and what made it into Day 2, which was an 8-person cut. I believe Ryan has some information for us on the overall list that made it in.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a kind of a little bit more deep dive onto squads. So I'm just going to kind of present an overview of the top 8 squad lists. There were 4 of the top 8 lists were 130 or above in squads. So you're talking pretty much max squads for half of the top 8 field. And then I was at 107, so I still think 5 squads over 100, and then you had a nice medium squad ball that Nathan had. I think it was about 74 points, and his ball was very much a classic. I'm a speed bump. He brought 4 separatist aces that are all anti-squad, but they have black. He brought Grievous, DIS 181, Affleck, and Harchol prototype. So they're all at least 3 of them. Other Harchol's hit or miss on anti-ship, but if you don't bring squads, it's a nice bonus anti-ship damage that he can get in. And then Jason, who ended up getting 3rd, brought 2 YT 2400s, which was interesting. I thought just kind of noteworthy in that usually you see that as Shara Tycho if you're going to bring for 33 points, but he brought 2 YTs for 32. I kind of wish I had talked to him and kind of see what was going through his mind on why not Shara Tycho. But sometimes that 6 hull is just some Shara and Tycho go down really quick, and then the just the flexibility of having rogues. Maybe if the opponent isn't bringing ships, you get a little bit of bombing power too. So I don't know, and maybe it's 1 point cheaper, so maybe he just wanted a bigger bid. We talked about that he had a 13-point bid, so maybe that was kind of what was going through his mind there too. And then finally, you had Garrett, who didn't bring any squads, so he had 0 squads. One thing I noted that I thought was interesting was that of the top 5 in terms of point squad lists, so my list and then the 430s were principally rogue based, which I think is super interesting. My list was certainly rogue. Nick's was Imperial rogue, and then we had the 3 kind of Starhawk rogue lists. So I want to pose a question to you guys. Not much of it might be a hot take, but if if the squad heavy lists were all rogue based, have we seen the end, or are we seeing the end of 134 fleets that are being activated? So are we seeing the end of the activation of 130 plus squad lists? Because they're all rogues here, generally speaking. So I was wondering what you guys thought of that. And I'll say to activate 130 points of squads, you're investing a ton into ships to do that. So the rogues are saving points by not having to do any of that. So
I have an answer. I'll let Ken go first.
I agree. No,
Putting you on the
that's-
spot right now.
yeah, no, that's fine. Actually, I find that kind of interesting because I was thinking something along those same lines, that there seems to be a proliferation of rogue squadrons, as in squadrons with rogue, throughout a lot of competitive play that I'm starting to see. Having said that, I think when you look at some commanders, take Sloan as a prime example, you're not going to be necessarily bringing rogues. You're going to be bringing in things that are going to do some serious damage and strip tokens away. So I think it depends, because you have some pretty nifty aces that are not going to have rogue that you really need to command, whether that's two Gazantes or two GR75s, and you're still going to have that to an extent. Do I think we'll still have them at 134 points? Yeah, probably. Because if you're at 134 points, my guess is your squads are going to be doing quite a bit of damage as opposed to just being a speed bump. John, what do you think?
So I think there is 2 to 3 major reasons why we're seeing this right now. And the first one is, if you look across the board, what percentage of all the fighters that were in these lists were YT 2400s? And it's extremely high. Even the list that you just mentioned, Jason's, that only had 2 was YT 2400. I had 4. All the other
I had 3.
You had 3, and the other Starhawk players had between, let's say, 2 to 3 as well. So that's because it is the most point efficient squadron right now I think there is in the game. Which then comes to the second point, which is the point defense ion cannons has pretty much eliminated the use of any generic squadrons as a whole. And so when you see like massive squadron pushing lists before, they were Sloan. And Sloan's pushing TIE fighters and TIE interceptors. And Sloan's ability was there to help fix the fact that they just couldn't hit anything to begin with, because it's only a 50% chance that you're going to get a damage on a blue dice. And it being now allowed to reroll a crit, honestly, when you're Sloan, you're mainly trying to hunt for accuracies with that reroll, not necessarily a hit. And if you somehow come up with a hit, they're going to have you reroll it again. So there's really only a 25% chance that you attack with a TIE fighter or a TIE interceptor or something like that powered by Sloan that's going to come up with any damage. So why invest into that when you can bring rogue squadrons so you don't have to command it? Like, so the power of like a Quasar fleet is no longer there, because you might as well just have the rogues and then bring another battleship instead. I would say the third reason is the same type of thing. Like, you could be pushing squadrons if you really wanted with like Starhawks or things like that. But why? I would rather just engineering keep my one battleship on the table and let the rogues do what they need to. So that's kind of why I think we're seeing a switch to more rogue squadrons, is because of specifically the card point defense ion cannons.
Do you have a third one?
I would rather not command my squadrons and engineering with my one ship that's keeping me on the table, because that's like 3 of the list are all the same Starhawk rogue builds. You don't really want to be commanding squadrons with it.
Yeah, I think command squadrons are kind of in a tough place. Like when you think about GAR, like their ships have such terrible navigational charts that you're giving that up to have to command squadrons. So like your Venator, if he's pushing squads, you know where that Venator is going to be. And they have great squadrons as well. I think, I don't know. I think I think it's the flexibility that Rogue Squadrons give you, just to always be last. Always be the last activation. It's just such tremendous flexibility. So it's just, I think we'll just have to keep watching it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a challenge moving forward to build a squad ball that's not necessarily a rogue ball, unless you came in with a specific plan. And that plan has to be able to deal with all of the rogues. Like Nick's list is all like Imperial rogues and decimators and fire sprays. So if you don't lock them down and kill them, so basically you have to engage them, which then rogue is awesome because then they can shoot you and then move away. Or you just ignore them and then they come in and they just wreck your ships really, really fast.
All right, well, that's it. I just wanted to just kind of the squad observation of the top 8 at GenCon. So that's a little snapshot.
Yeah, a lot of rogue. So the top 8, I don't know if we mentioned this in our previous episode, but who actually made the top 8 was one Imperial player, which was Nick. One CIS player, which was Nathan, one Republic player, which was Garrett, and then 5 Rebel players made it. And 3 of them were similar Starhawk farming lists. So that's kind of the makeup of the top 8. And then after 3 rounds of Swiss came out, was the final placements. And we're going to be going over the top 3, and then we're going to do something different because I already talked about my list in the previous one. So we're going to kick it over to Ken, and he's going to talk about Rob's 4th place fleet.
That's right. So I have Rob's fleet here. This is in Rob We Trust, a friend of ours who gives us our mats and stuff like that. Great stuff. You should check that out. But so he has a Starhawk Mark II, along with Kirsta Gate, Expert Shield Tech, Walix Blissix, Caitkin and Sholin, high-capacity ion turbines, Link Turbo Laser Towers, and the Unity title. And then he's got 2 flotillas, both of them GR-75s, one of them with Adar Talon, and the second one with CommsNet. And we'll go into the Squadron Ball. We've got Shara Bay, a Z95 Headhunter, and I'm pretty sure that's there just to fill out some points. A VCX 100. I think he's got, I just hit a button here. 2 VCXs, sorry. And then we've got YT 2400, Lando Calrissian, Dash Rendar, and Rogue Squadron. And then for objectives, advanced gunnery, fire lanes, and sensor net. So the whole list comes up to 390 points. There is a 10-point bid out of it. You've got on squadrons here a little bit of strategic from the VCXs, which is going to help you farm your points. And John, you had an opportunity to face this list on day 2. You have Rogue Squadron, Dash Rendar, and Lando, along with that YT 2400. So 4 rogues that are ready to go out and match up to whatever else is being flown around. Lando being, as we know, kind of like that flotilla killer. So kind of thought process and going up against another Starhawk farming list. And then you've got Shara, which is clearly going to jump around, lock down a couple squadrons. And like I said, you've got the Z95 there, probably for point filling. Adar Talon on one of the GR-75s. So one of those squadrons is going to get the ability to be used a second time, probably VCX when you're farming points. And then the other GR-75 is sitting there supporting the Starhawk, sending them whatever tokens they need. When we take a look at the Starhawk itself, you've got Kirsta Gate, Expert Shield Techs, and Walix Blissix. Combine that with the Unity title, and the Unity title gives you that extra redirect, correct?
That is correct.
So you've got the ability to gain a couple extra tokens. You get 2 extra defense tokens with Kirsta and Unity. You get one of your tokens back with Walix Blissix after it's gone. The Expert Shield Techs, talk about knocking out the little onesies and twosies from potential fighter cover. Caitkin and Sholin's always good to exhaust when you need to re-roll a particular series of dice. Reds would be good if you need some blue ones. LTT's there definitely for the red rerolls, and if you have the opportunity to shoot an ace, or maybe you just need to kill a squadron going at the Starhawk. And then the one that I thought was interesting was the high capacity ion turbines, adding in that extra blue on your sides. So it's definitely a tanky ship where you're firing what, 6 dice out the sides. You've got potentially 8 at close range out the front. So that's a lot of damage that the Starhawk can definitely put up. So if you're going up against it, it's going to vaporize a lot of the small ships.
Yeah, I think that high capacity ion cannon or turret, I'm not sure which one it is essential for the Starhawk. I know unless you take boarding troopers like John did, it's a little different. You know, you need if you can get into the side of the Starhawk, you know, you can get 1 or 2 good hits before you have to kind of scramble out, and that making it a 6 with a blue to get an extra accuracy makes it really, really tough. So I think I don't like to see that. You know, if I see a Hawk, I'd rather they take PDIC in that spot. Just kind of personally, because I like to get into the flank of the Starhawk if possible. So I think it's a great upgrade, and it's the only ship I think that we see that particular upgrade on. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I would agree that's the only ship you see it on. And from my experience with running a fleet like this, I've never needed that dice a single time, and that's why I don't have it. The point defense is more useful for me. The only time I was really ever shooting out my side was at red range at small ships that were trying to scoot around me. So an extra blue dice wouldn't have helped me there because they were long range. Or
the idea is that the Starhawk needs a little more firepower, whether that's in the form of advanced gunnery or boarding troopers or whatnot. It needs a little bit of a boost. And in the earlier versions of the Hawk, like John calls it the hate Hawk, you saw a salvo, right? It had an extra salvo as part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. What I think is interesting about this list than a lot of the other ones is where he got his bid from, and that was dropping a YT 2400 down to Rogue Squadron. And I think that's actually a really good call because you're only sacrificing 1 speed and 1 blue dice and red dice bombing, so that hurts. But a lot of times you just throw that Rogue Squadron in first, and you're using it as an anti-squadron style ship. It dies off, and then your YT can still bomb afterwards. So I thought that was a good call on his part to gain a little bit of extra bid. Because honestly, when it comes to farming, the bid is king because you want to be second.
Well, let me ask you this: like, I think that Z95 is kind of squeezed in there to get 8. The magic even number of deployments. John, you're played more Starhawk than any of us. Do you need that? Like, do you need that extra deployment advantage that the Z95 gives you, like to get to 8?
You need to get to 8 squadrons for your 4 so you can get to 7 deployments. Most fleets sit between 6 and 7. In a second player, that means the Starhawk is usually the last ship that goes down then. If you didn't have that, a lot of times like an opponent's fleet would be able to put their key ship down after the Starhawk, and you kind of really, really need that. Depending on how they position their fleet for, let's say, something like sensor net, depends on the angle that I put my Starhawk. Like, if I know where it's going to be, I can point the Starhawk at them and then still farm points as I'm moving toward them. But if I didn't, then I would just be blindly putting it down. So just filling that points is very important, or filling that activation is very important.
Got it. Okay. Ken, I think you're muted, just FYI.
Yeah, I am. I was just saying, John, I think your video skipped for a second, but that's all right.
So you're telling me about my technical issues and you're having your own technical issues. We're professionals. Yeah, so Rob ended up taking 4th. I didn't write how many points he came in with. I want to say it was close to 20. Ken, do you have it?
I had 20.
Yeah? Okay.
else?
John, Rob came in with 18 points. He had 1 win and 2 losses with
18 points. Then it's Nick who I'm thinking of.
Oh, in the top 8. Sorry,
Yes.
I thought day two. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah. So he took 4th in that. So it's a Starhawk build. You got to know how to destroy it, which we'll get to later. So let's jump over to the 3rd place finisher, who is Jason. Jason and I, when we met in round 3 of day 2, were both, I believe, the only undefeated fleets up to that point. So this was very nerve-wracking for me. It's a very well-built list. I've faced him using this type of list before, and it's shredded me. So I was very concerned about getting tabled, and he almost killed my Starhawk. And he outbid me. So he is here, and he's tied for the highest bid in the whole tournament at 13 points. So he came in at 387. He has an Akbar fleet. Akbar is sitting on an MC-30 scout frigate with expert shield techs, turbo laser reroute circuits, and the foresight title. So with expert shield techs and double redirect, he's pretty much immune to squadron damage if you try to go into him with squadrons. Akbar with a con fire means that he can throw 5 red dice at long range at you and then just automatically set one to a double, which is really, really scary because he normally rolls hot. So the one attack against me, he did 9 damage because he naturally rolled 3 doubles on his reds plus a crit and a blank, and then he just made the blank into a double, which was brutal because I had already discarded my brace on my Starhawk, so I just ate 9 damage. It was absolutely nuts. And then he has a whole host of CR90s with turbo laser reroutes, and then he puts like a different upgrade on each one. So the first one has Jaina's Light, the second one has Hondo, and the third one has Ahsoka. So it's only adding 2 points to each of them, but it adds a lot of versatility to the fleet. And then the 4th CR90 is just naked. Well, it has TRC, but you know what I mean. He has a standard GR75, which I've heard people say that he refers to as his pass token. And then he has 2 YT2400s. To answer Ryan's question earlier, he likes them because he doesn't need to command them, and he can just move them then where he needs to, and still be able to attack to try to fend things off, compared to like Shara and Tycho, who in the squadron phase can move, and then you're just hoping that they attack you with counter. These can actually move and engage, and then if they don't have squadrons, they can move and engage and shoot. So they're a little bit more versatile for him. When you're just, looking for a really cheap, I would like not to get attacked by fighters for 2 turns. His objective choice is pretty brutal. It is Most Wanted, Abandoned Mining Facility, and Hyperspace Migration, which were all terrible when he chose to go second, because I would much rather him played my objectives, but he decided that he did not want to do that. So I went with Abandoned Mining Facility in my game against him, and the reasons for that is I needed my Starhawk to stay alive, and adding an additional dice when he was already going to be with Akbar, like hitting me with like 5 dice per attack, seemed like a really bad idea. And then Hyperspace Migration, just the way it's set up, and he can sit all of his ships. I was figuring like every other turn he was going to be scoring 120 odd points, and I didn't want that. So I figured without me ever being able to score any. So that's really the key there. Abandoned Mining Facility, I could trade tokens with him for a little bit and at least mitigate that down to he was only gaining 30 per round against me compared to the insanity that the other one was. And then at some point he might come across and try to kill me. So that was my hope, that he would farm points for half the game and then try to come kill me and then just not be able to do it, which worked out well for me because I barely survived. But he had like twice my tokens. So that's what I would pick. What would you guys pick in that lineup?
Well, I played him. I picked Most Wanted. I only had one ship on the board at the time, so he had to pick my CR90, which I think was suboptimal.
That's tricky.
Yeah. So I was happy to see Most Wanted. I'll take it all day long. But if I'm flying a regular fleet without that, I don't like it. I like it. Akbar's tough. Like Akbar flies differently. He flies unlike any other commander. You're at range. You're hard to close in, like because you want to close into Akbar, but if you close, you'll get obliterated. It's tough. I don't know. This is a tough one. I think Most Wanted. The thing you can do with CR90 Akbar is you can put the obstacles kind of in a circle and hopefully try to obstruct the shots, because unless it's Jaina's Light, they're not. An obstructed shot's not going to get through. That's all I got though. I don't know how to. I lost. I got obliterated in my game with him, so I don't know how to do this. But that's the best I got. So I would take Most Wanted.
Okay, Ken.
So I'm really looking at this list, and my first thought is you're going to have to take Most Wanted, Abandoned Mining Facility, and Hyperspace Migration. You're just taking they're grabbing tokens, and you've got what, 5 ships, 6 that could potentially do something. And then all those CR90s, you've got TRCs, you've got Akbar, so you're throwing a lot of dice out of these little machines that are going to just be death dealers with Akbar. Most Wanted, though, the thing is, it's what, just the one ship, though? That is your objective ship, right?
Yeah, they get to choose it.
They get to choose it, but in my case, I'm probably going to have 4 or 5 ships ready for combat anyways. So I kind of keep one maybe a little further away and hope to not lose it.
That's what you got to do. You gotta you gotta try to. A guy that was on our team, Tanuki Xantos, he has a very nice way of flying when he picks Most Wanted, where he keeps his red dice ship kind of behind his fleet and in a really good spot. But it's tough though, because your CR90s in Most Wanted can throw 5 red dice, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
if they're con firing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. And one of them's Jaina's Light, and you've got that scout frigate in there too. I mean, it's a tough fleet, and it's going to do some serious damage to pretty much anything you bring to the table. So, but I mean, I guess this is the way I'm looking at it. You're going to lose one ship. Let's say Most Wanted, is that just the fleet cost of the destroyed ship? Just the double the fleet cost of the ship, not the upgrades. So you're going to be down, depending on what that ship is going to be, it's going to be your biggest ship. So somewhere between 60 and 120 points. When you start looking at Abandoned Mining Facility or Hyperspace Migration, the question you have to ask is, are you going to get farmed out of at least that many or more? And the answer, that's probably yes. Hyperspace Migration is what, 20 points per
ship. So that's
right.
On his fleet, it's like 120 points every other round.
Right. So you don't want to take that versus Most Wanted. And then when you go to Abandoned Mining Facility, that's what, 15 points?
10.
I think per token.
10.
10 points per token. So can he get 12 tokens?
12 tokens more than you.
Well, that's fair. That is fair.
We're not all farmers like you are, John.
Okay. I got my shovel and my hoe, and I'm like, I'll just keep farming. This is what I do.
Tractors out
but
there.
let me tell you about how
Agricola anywhere over here. So,
but let me tell you how bad it is to face him. I didn't give him the extra dice, and he was still hitting me with 5 to 7 damage per shot. So add another dice into that, we're in the 6 to 8 range then.
Yeah, this is a top tier list right now.
It's so terrible. You just melt. So it's not 120. It's immediately deleting your flagship. Because that's what it's doing.
I kind of want to try this list, if I'm going to be honest.
I plan on eventually trying something like this too.
You should. It'll be good against, even. So I thought I had a counter. Like I thought oh, I got rogue squadrons. But those CR90s are so slippery that, even Speed 4 YT4 2400s can't really catch up to him, because he flies it really, really well. So, like, it's, like I said, I don't know how you beat it.
I did by just holding on with duct tape, pulling my ship together as it didn't explode. I honestly thought I was going to lose this one.
The chassis was completely destroyed on your Starhawk. It was just the paint and a couple panels holding it together.
It was no braces, one redirect, one salvo left for my token. So I had 2 braces, 1 redirect, and my contain gone, and no shields, and 9 hull at the end of round 6. He needed one more good shot on it, and it was gone. So that's another reason to go with abandoned mining facilities. You got debris fields to completely obstruct line of sight. Akbar does nothing when you can't shoot you.
Yeah.
So
only you can fit a whole ship on a dust field. So
this way you sit behind it and farm tokens. See, you guys got to get into this farming habit. So no, it was a really good match, and he is really, really good at flying it. If you saw the pictures when I did my overview for my video and how tight of a formation he flew with it without ramming himself and then getting everything in arc, it's insane. It was fun watching him fly it and just hoping that he didn't kill me.
He was top 8 at Adepticon too. And I suspect he's going to be at Nova. So if you go to Nova, be prepared to fly against Akbar CR90s. So
yes. Yeah. Okay. So let's jump to the last fleet we'll be going over today, which is Nick's fleet. Ryan, you're taking that one.
All right. I flew this in the first round of day 2, and I beat Nick by 1 point, so it's a nice 6-5. This is a wild fleet, though. This is, as I'm looking at there's a lot of upgrades, a lot of squads that we don't normally see, a lot of admirals, and admiral that we don't normally see.
You guys don't. Chicago meta is like 50% Ozzel.
Yeah, it's the Ozzel meta. It's so strange. So the Raider 2 was his flagship with Ozzel on it, Admiral Ozzel, and this is definitely our first time talking about Ozzel. He lets you change the speed of your ship by 1, up or down, once per activation. So he's excellent. He is an excellent admiral with a great ability at 20 points. He put Iden Versio on the Raider. Pretty much kind of a natural fit there for Iden with the 2 evades. She can cancel close range dice. Weapon battery techs, that'll help him get his blue crit off. Decaps helps his blues shoot at long range, and then heavy ion emplacements for extra damage. He did a lot of extra damage on my CR90 when he got HIEs off. That really hurt. And then Corvus, which is an excellent title, paired with, like as mentioned earlier, Rogue Squadrons is particularly nasty because the Rogues can just go off on their own and don't need any help from Corvus. 2 Gazantes, with 2 with comms net. I'm not really sure he needs the second Gazanti, honestly, but I'm not really sure what else he would do. And then Onager, Raquel, which is super interesting. This is the second time we're seeing Raquel. I think Yik had Raquel in Battle of Hoth. It lets you do the goofy Speed 0 maneuver. Then there's Intel Officer, Sensor Team, so he's nailing your defense tokens, which you have to do with the Onager. Veteran Gunners, Ox Shield Teams, and then the Red Beam. And then her squads are super interesting too. Squads that we don't really see a lot anymore. Mornaki, Bosk, a generic Decimator, Teltravera, Darth Vader and the TIE Defender, and a Fire Spray, 18-point double blue Fire Spray. So really interesting list. His objectives were surprise attack, planetary ion cannon, and superior positions. One interesting thing he did with his Raquel, and the reason I really like it paired with Ozzel, is I think most Onagers get 2 shots, and then they're off. The Raquel lets you get a 3rd shot in. before he has to scramble. And I think that's a really interesting way of leveraging the ship with the commander. And he did it well in our game.
Well, I think one of the unique things about having Ozzel, specifically with onagers, is you can really jump from speed 0 to speed 2 and then 3, and you're gone in those 2 rounds, and you're not having to bank your tokens for nav, or you don't need to have that nav dial necessarily to be able to you can make it a concentrate fire, right, and then have that extra turns worth of shot. Although I guess if you wanted to, you've got a nav token, nav dial, and Ozzel, you can jump from speed 0 to speed 3 right away. So that is one heck of a way to get an onager from where you want it to be to the halfway across the board.
Heck, you could put engine techs on it, right, and go fake speed 4.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting combo. I may have to try that some
I
of these.
do enjoy an onager with going speed 4, but speed 0 to speed 4 is kind of insane.
Does that work? Right?
Yes.
Nav dial, Ozzel, engine tech.
Yeah. Crazy. So knowing Nick and seeing how he's flown these fleets before, his iteration before this was 2 Architens, and he decided that the 2 Architens were picked on too much by enemy ships and fighters, and he wanted a little bit more staying power, so he decided to swap it out for an onager because it fit points-wise almost exactly for what he had his 2 Architens as. So I would say that's an upgrade probably in firepower. And it's always been this rogue ball, because I believe Nick took, don't quote me, it was at LVO, I believe he finished maybe for sure in the top 8. I believe he was second, because he kept telling me that he keeps coming second in tournaments. So I would, or is it I would have to go check, but I believe it was LVO he took, I believe, second. I could be very wrong, or he was top 8. Who knows?
Yeah,
but
I don't think
we talked about him, but I know that he's flown this style of fleet before, and from what I gathered, when he faced the Starhawk fleets, he would choose advanced gunnery and he would put it on his raider, and then the turn that he used disposable capacitors on it, he would try to hit 2 different hull zones and just eliminate as many shields as possible with heavy ion, and just throwing a handful of blue dice that are pretty much damage at long range, and then scoot away with hustle.
I like that Raider and how it's equipped, but then I'm a fan of Raiders, especially when you can get off that HIE hit. Because when you get a little Raider that's capable of doing essentially 6 or 7 points of damage, that's impressive from a small platform.
Yes.
I myself would like to see Overload Pulse on there. That's just it's just a kind of an option. Just but I think his it's interesting because with his list, you're just like, all right, he's just got the onager. That's the big hitter. And then you deal, but it's deceptive, right? It's slippery with Ozzel, and the rogues hit like a truck. They beat me in the squad game, which surprised me. I did not expect to lose the squad game, but I did. So it's great. So red objective, surprise attack, blue objective, planetary ion cannon, and spirit positions, yellow objective, planetary ion cannon.
Well, for me, it's super, super easy. If I had to face him, I would be second player. No, he would make me. He would 100% make me be first player because he outbid me. And
he's
I
at 400. Choose... Sorry, I didn't say he's at 400 points.
Oh. No, you were the other one. Yeah, so I would be second player against him. But let's say something weird happened and I was first player. I would take planetary ion, and then I just keep moving the ion cannon tokens farther and farther away so they would never get shot at me. So easy peasy.
When I played him, I took surprise attack. I just like taking surprise attack now. It doesn't really bother me. I'll set my ship up in reverse or in sideways, so it's fine. And then with Radis, like, you're not taking raid tokens with your ships off the board. So
How is the timing for Radis versus when the raid flips?
I mean, if the ships are not on the board, you don't take raid tokens from surprise attack.
Okay, so your ships go down before the raid token for that round flips over, then, because you would be first player then.
I don't know that. I feel like I did take when I dropped, but I don't remember.
Start of the ship phase. Let me look up Radis real fast.
I think I definitely took raid tokens when I dropped on turn 3. And I think that's right. I think
So Radis is at the start of any round.
Okay, so
Radis will come down
goes down,
first.
and then you still get hit by the tokens. So, but at that point, you're like, surprise attack just kind of puts you closer to where you want to be anyway.
right.
And then you can deploy all your squadrons off of it as well, which is where the rogues want to be anyway as well. So that's a good option for you. Ken, what would you be taking?
I'd actually take superior positions, and then I would just be running at full speed. So whether that's 3 or 4, depending on my ships. He'll be player 2, so I'll probably wind up sacrificing one ship or spreading them out a little bit just to, like, you're going to get one target, let you get it at extreme range if you're able to, and then otherwise I should be able to get around that Onager shot. And I think I'd probably try to do a double flank you got to pick one side or the other with Raycal. I think the piece here that really scares me, though, would be that Raider 2, because he can reposition it with Corvus and then get the Raider 2 in a spot where he can knock down a bunch of shields and then hit it, with that Onager. And I think that's really the 1-2 punch in this list.
Yeah. Everyone, you look at this list and you're like, it's an Onager. That's the scary part. But his Rogue Ball annihilates almost everything. And I think almost every game he won, like even when he faced the Starhawk list, I believe he completely wiped out their squadron balls and were bombing with it.
I mean, if you don't bring fighters to protect your own ships, I mean, Morna's throwing 3 dice, Bosk is throwing 2, like everything's throwing 2 to 3 dice.
Yes.
Except for Tell.
Except for Tell, who doesn't do anything anyway, so don't worry about him.
Tell's fine.
Tell is there just to protect Vader for the one time you might need to protect Vader. Vader's going to die. Vader always dies when he's in a TIE Defender. But I mean, let's be honest. The Decimator is really the key to that squadron ball because it just goes in, 8 hull, throws 3 dice, regardless of what it's shooting at. And I just like Decimators. They're cool, but that's me.
Yeah. And then Bosk, if you attack him, here's an accuracy, and then you can't use something when I hit you with my 2 dice.
It's like the bully kind of version. I feel like it will bully you if you're not. I mean, it's a great. I hope to see more people fly that Rogue Ball, or whatever their own version of it is, because it's fun, and it's the kind of, if we're playing the matchup roulette, like there's plenty of fleets that don't fly with full squad balls, and this will annihilate them.
Yeah. Theoretically, if we played 4 rounds, I would have been facing Nick next, and I think that would have been another very scary matchup for me. I don't necessarily know how I would play it. I would really hope that he picks my advanced gunnery, and then I would try to keep my squadrons near my Starhawk, but out of range 1, so I wasn't getting red beamed, because the Agate Hawk has enough defense tokens that even with Intel Officer and him generating accuracies, I'll be fine. For a couple turns, enough turns that, because he can't shoot me on turn 1, I should be able to survive. So then it just comes down to, when his squadron ball comes in to engage me, can I outflak and outkill his squadron ball for the win? I think that's what it would come down to. It would be close because all of his squadrons are scary.
They certainly are.
Any other, which is weird. I think this is the first fleet that we've all chosen a completely different objective if we faced it as first player. I don't know if that's ever happened
Any of them
before.
are like super terrible options, right? Like none of, I think they're all like, there's enough in there that depending on what fleets you have, there's an objective for you, I feel like. So
And maybe that's part of the point. Like nothing's like pushing you in necessarily any of the directions. It's all just kind of the same bad.
mm-hmm.
So like sometimes you look at a list and you're like, you're handed 3 cards and you don't even read one and throw it away. Most wanted. That's the one for me.
I think what's funny, and John, you kind of hit the nail on the head here, is they're all bad, but like sometimes when I'm facing an opponent, usually you look at the 3 and it's like, well, there's a clear, obvious choice which one I have to take. And it's almost regardless of your fleet archetype. What I think is interesting here, because each one of us picked a different objective, I think that speaks not only to our own play styles, but our typical fleets that we'd like to fly. And it showcases that there's a couple different potential solutions to this puzzle. By the same token, I think it also speaks to how Nick designed this fleet and picked its objectives to, yeah, I'm going to have some bad objectives for some fleets, some bad objectives for other fleets, and you really don't have a good option. You don't have horrible options, but you just pretty much have a bad option regardless of what you pick.
That's a good way to put it for sure.
Yeah.
This was a cool fleet, like I've never seen a fleet like this. Like I have not flown against, you guys probably have, but I have not flown against this type of fleet. So to see it across the table, it was the puzzle to pick up, and I basically failed it. I only won by 1 point. So it's a nice puzzle to try to break down.
Yes. So I'm going to just pause for a moment from our general discussion and talk about Oslo and why we see so much Oslo in our local area, which is Chicago here. Because actually, I was thinking about this. This is another side off of my other side. The command stack meta, we could call it Chai-tucky.
Chai-tucky, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it, John.
But anywho, so the Chicago meta is heavy into Oslo. There's quite a few people in the Chicago area that pretty much only play Imperial. So we see a lot of things like this with Nick. And then like a lot of like ISD heavy lists, or some people like Ken will run MSU. And Oslo just gives you versatility for cheap, that you can adjust speed very quickly. And with where Star Destroyers currently sit, needing like all 4 commands the entire game, like you need engineering tokens to be able to power ECM. You need concentrate fire to power gunnery teams. You need squadrons to push your squadrons, and then you need nav to adjust. Oslo eliminates your need to really focus on a command, and then you can focus on doing the other things that your ISD wants to do instead. And that's why I kind of feel like he is so prevalent in an area that is very ISD heavy.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, because really that group, it's a lot of Imperial ships all the time on the table.
Yeah. I think all 3 players that were here that were Oslo came from the Chicagoland area. So,
and if I was going to bring an Imperial list, I would have had Oslo also. So I mean, but that's a me thing, not necessarily formed by the Chicago group. But then Oslo MSU is very me.
Yes. Okay. So for the last segment, we've already talked about my fleet, which I won, which is a Starhawk farming fleet. You should go back and you should check out our previous episode, and we do a rundown of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to counter the Starhawk farm fleets and what you should go about doing to make a list, how to go about doing it. So I'll kick it off first to Ryan, because that's pretty much what he did when he went to GenCon.
So literally, if you want to, if Starhawks are a problem in your meta, take a look at my list, because that was the only thing I was kind of I designed it to do. But it's really built around the tanky trying to go for the table. You might want to build a list that'll out farm it. Good luck trying to do that. You might try to outbid it, but you'll make sacrifices in other areas. So I feel comfortable that tabling it is the most straightforward option, and so how do you table it? How do you take it all out? And you got to go all in. You can't hold anything back. You got to make sure all your ships are firing on all cylinders. With my fleet, I did overload pulse to stress all those defense tokens. Interesting note, I did want to bring this up. I learned a new rule. It's not a new rule, but I learned it. He had EST. I played Ruben, who had a Farm Hawk in the top 8. I threw 2 damage with my CR90B. One of them was a blue crit. So he braced it and then EST'd it to 0 damage. But the crit still goes off. And so I got really lucky. I did 0 damage, but all his defense tokens got exhausted. So I wasn't 100% sure of that rule. I had to kind of check, and made a really big difference. And then following up with other pressure, whether that be, in my case, it was boarding troopers, and then just park it right in front and hit it with everything you got. Now I chose sensor net, but if you choose sensor net, it's a race against the clock, because you have to table it by turn 4, maybe 5. But if you're getting to 6, you're not going to, even if you table them, it's really not going to be much of a victory, because they have farmed 300 points, of tokens. So just some high risk, high reward play. But that's kind of what Radis is high risk, high reward. So
I would agree with that. For me, I see it as a lot the same when the Super Star Destroyers came out. And a lot of people at the very beginning had trouble killing a Super Star Destroyer. So I played a lot of Radis at that time period, and I would Radis in, and most of the time I could finish off a Super Star Destroyer start of turn 3. And that's what you're going to need to see again in the meta, I think, to kill it. Like, Radis is a great way to kill Super Star Destroyers. Just hit it. Not Super Star. Well, it's basically the same. Super Star Destroyers and the Starhawk. You need to hit it, and you need to hit it hard and fast to try to kill it off before it can do it at once. Like Ryan said, I would take probably Sensor Net, because you don't want it to shoot you off the table with advanced gunnery. And firing lanes is just 45 points per turn, pretty much guaranteed without them having to do anything, and then all of their fighters are against you. So I would choose Sensor Net. I think there are 2 major archetypes, well, three major archetypes that can kill Starhawks easily, and it is aggressive MSU, kind of like Jason's list, the Akbar throwing 5 to 7 damage from 5 different sources every single turn, overheats the tokens, they're gone, and it goes down. I also think like Martuk / TF style CIS lists can do it as well, because honestly, the Starhawk doesn't want to lose its shields. It wants to reduce damage with expert shield tests in the brace, and just like take it to the face with that 6 shield hull zone, and then use its engineering to pass shields from the side forward, so then you have the maximum amount of effect, instead of like, because I can move 4 shields from my side to the front in 1 turn with an engineering, or I can regen 2. I would much rather take all those shields to the front. So like Martuk is just like boom, 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 red dice as fast as I can, multiple sources, burn through tokens. I think those are what you're going to see the best of. And then honestly, Krabik's 5 Architens with Rami almost took one out as well. It was like, the game was called, I think, at the end of turn 4, and the Starhawk only had 2 health left. So red dice, very, very fast, shooting it can kill it. And that's how you have to do it. And then you have double Onager specifically. I think a Starhawk's fine to face a single Onager, but double Onager it struggles with, again, because it stresses the defense tokens. And then like Radis dropping in. I think those are the 3 main types of fleets that I'm most worried about when I'm playing a Starhawk list.
I think there are some crazy like double die bomber fleets that are out there. When I say crazy, it's just you don't see them too much, but I think the squads are kind of an afterthought in this, and you have to approach it as an afterthought. Like, um, if you can get your squads in there bombing the Starhawk, you know that's all the more damage that you need just to start getting through to the hull, start getting some crits on that thing. So, I don't know, Ken, do you have any ideas on how to kill a hawk?
So I'd actually been playing around with this a little bit after facing John and his hawk a couple times, and one of the thoughts I had was not too dissimilar from what Kravik brought. It was a 5 Architans list with advanced projectors, and for giggles, I tried slave turrets. So you're going to get 4 dice out each side, and if you can get all 5 to hit in one turn with Confire, that's 25 red dice. Now here's the downside: you have no reroll potential. I would throw Ozilon there. And then to protect against some potential fighter screens, throw an engineering team so you can maybe regain 2 shields back, in like turns 4, 5, and 6. You might be able to take down a Starhawk if you throw that amount of dice and the dice gods just happen to be with you. Because as John pointed out, let's say I can do an average of 6 damage each shot, and I do that 5 times in one turn. Your defense tokens are going to start getting weak after a certain point, or I'm taking down enough shields to actually hurt. And that'd be my thought. So 3 rounds of sustained fire, or maybe 4, you should be able to take out a Starhawk.
Yeah, it's kind of like uh, some of the the Steel Strategy podcast, unnamed podcast. They had an archetype that they called like the dumpster fire archetype for a long time, and it was centered around the idea of 4 combat ships, and you all kind of roll up at the same time, and you get it's really just kind of a simple principle of I'll get all your ships on the target, and I think that's kind of what you're talking about with the Architects or with Mark II or whatnot. It's overheat those tokens. If you got shenanigans, great. If you're not, just do damage. Like even TRCs or just extra damage. Con firing. Like a lot of people won't con fire. This is the list to con fire, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the list of every little bit of damage is going to help. You gotta, navigate, but pick and choose when you need to con fire, just to get that little extra damage through.
A lot of times I look at it as fighting an SSD, but this is actually easier to kill than the SSD. It has only like the SSD has more shields it can pull forward with, and it has better command dials, and it has more attacks. The Starhawk, usually it's the only actual combat ship, and its attacks are way weaker than the SSD, and we're not really afraid of SSDs anymore in the meta. You can kill them, so we should be able to kill the Starhawk out. I doubt that we're going to be able to see them do super, super well in the future, because I think people like what happened with the Onager. People are going to tech against it. And we're not going to be able to see people bring like a single Star Destroyer, an Architan, and 2 Gonzantes anymore. That's not going to be enough firepower to take it down, and that's just an immediate almost loss. You're going to have to see people bring multiple ships that can shoot at it, because the Starhawk with Agate is great if you have one actual ship, which is kind of what we've seen the meta slip into, is like one actual combat ship and then maybe some small support. But it doesn't care. It just laughs off all that damage. You need multiple sources of damage to be able to do it. Which is why also single Onager isn't it.
When you look at what a single Onager is going to do at extreme range, and you're not within close of that token, that's 4 red dice, maybe 5, 6 if you've got Ramadi and it's obstructed, right? So you're limited in what you can throw out. You get 2 Simoons as an example, and you're throwing more dice. You got to get closer, but still.
Just as a cautionary tale for everyone who wants to take advanced gunnery, the Nick Griffiths, who got 9th in GenCon, was on my ITC team for Team Tanuki, and his onager he took an onager, took advanced gunnery. His onager had not taken any damage, and we were at turn 6, and he was up by like a few points, and we were going to win. We were super excited. We were watching, cheering him on, and the Starhawk activates on turn 6, 2 shots to onager, gets an accuracy each time, and just blows a full health onager up, gets 10 damage and 10 damage, dead. So just, I know people think advanced gunnery is the one to do. Just maybe it is, but be careful. Be careful out there.
Honestly, as the Starhawk, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just don't see how. I really don't like giving that ship a combat advantage over you. So, but you know, if you have the right build, and maybe you can take advanced gunnery, because if you have multiple ships, it's not as big of a deal.
Every time that someone has my Starhawk, I've killed multiple 2 ISD lists and haven't had advanced gunnery because we were playing like fire lanes or something like that. If you give me advanced gunnery, I'm killing like an ISD a turn, especially with the boarding trooper. As soon as we close into close range, all your tokens are gone. Boom, boom, it's gone. It's super, super dangerous. And then what I did to Ken is the title allows you to reroll dice if you're not engaged with something that's heavy. And I have linked turbo laser towers, and I can shoot you at red range. So in blue range, I'm a red-blue with 2 rerolls against every single squadron, and I'm going to do that twice. I can eliminate a fighter ball. I killed all your X-Wings in like 1 activation from the Starhawk because I was doing 3 damage against the big ball, and it's just like, boom, it's gone.
You pretty much obliterated all of them, except all of them had 1 hull left, so I got an attack out of, I think, 3 of them. But you made short order of that in your next activation.
Yeah, advanced gunnery is super, super dangerous to take because then it becomes a super Star Destroyer.
Yeah, it's nasty. There's a couple other strategies out there. Have a bigger bid. You know, we're just continuing to spiral down the big bid wars.
I think we called that in episode 1, though.
Yeah, the Sam's list, right? And we're just 13 point. We're just going down. You know, and if for some reason you didn't listen to our podcast, right, and you just are like surprised to see a Starhawk at a tournament, and you're not equipped to beat it, you can run, and that's totally fine. Take the advanced gunnery. That's the only one you can take. Take the advanced gunnery and just do your best job to run, and take the 5-6. Live to fight another day. Like I went 1 and 2, and somehow got into the top 8 with 2 5s. So like it can be done. It's not fatal to your tournament to get a 5. So if you don't have a good matchup, try to run. I don't think this is. A lot of people will say like I will try to pick off something from a Starhawk fleet and run and get the 6-5. So like pick off a flotilla. I think a good player is not going to really let you do that. They're going to keep their fighters under the flak bubble, keep the GR-75s close, and I don't think that is a viable strategy anymore.
No, the flotillas are definitely behind the Starhawk. I'll run into the Starhawk before I move them in front of it. I would agree with that. It becomes a long game just because you're now playing 6 turns of high maneuverability. But don't forget that the Starhawk can start in the center, and at speed 2, it can reach any corner by the end of speed turn 6. So when you're running, you have to do it well. Otherwise, it will catch you, and with advanced gunnery, it only needs 1 turn. Because in my game, the player that ran his... my fighters failed me, but I almost took down his ship, and it almost became an 8-3. So, like, even running speed 4, I had him trapped in the corner that I got at least red range shots from my side into it to wound it, and then fighters almost finished it off. So that's the cautionary tale. You can run, but you have to do it very, very well, otherwise you're going to get caught.
That's kind of interesting. I didn't really think that one through in terms of that Starhawk being able to still hit the corners, even moving at speed too. So definitely good thing to keep in mind when you're facing up one of these Starhawks. Because yeah, you'll go in, try to run to get those 5 points, and boom, you're out 80 to 100 points, and that changes the score quite significantly.
Yes, it does. I think that's about it. Does anyone else have any final thoughts on Gen Con as a whole?
Not really. I think we put it all out there.
Yeah, I think between our 2 episodes, we covered it quite well.
Oh, I did have a spoiler, a teaser from the last.
Oh, you did. Yeah, we almost forgot.
I do have to. So I left it. They were taking the names and the addresses of the CIS and the Republic players. And they did this because they did not have what we got, the Rebel and Imperial players. We got old OP, cards that were like Dutch Vander, alt arts. They're not really alt arts. They just have laser beams on them. And so we got those as our prizes, but they took the names down because they wanted to give individual CIS specific and Republic specific prizes to players who played those factions. And so I think that is a really good sign that they took the effort to do that. And so we have Garrett, who is a top placing GAR player, so he will let us know, if they got to follow through. They got to follow through and get those alt arts. But it was a really good sign that that's at least their intention. So I was pretty encouraged by that. They are looking to support the other factions, and so this is for the first time we're going to be seeing potentially new OP, prizes, and this could be the first time we see something new from AMG Asmodee from them. So that was a spoiler. That was the only thing you only would ever see if you were there, and just kind of picked up on and noticed. But Garrett will let us know.
Yeah. From what I heard, it was one of the major ups in Asmodee that was walking by the tournament and saw that the two factions, unlike X-Wing and unlike Legion, weren't getting anything, and she was like, "This has to be rectified," and that's why it went down like that.
I think it's a good sign, because if it's just going off, they don't have to do that, right? They don't have to give faction specific. They can just say, you know what, we're winding the game down or something. But it's a good sign that they're going to try to make it right.
Yeah.
I think this also showcases, and I think we mentioned this in the last episode, that AMG did have, well, at least Asmodee anyways, had some good presence at Gen Con. And in specific with the Worlds, or with Armada, there was a lot of spectators watching what was going on. There were some crowds going on for that final game or two. And it was good to see that kind of grouping in terms of people, and Asmodee just paying attention to the game. So there's clearly a lot of life left in it.
Yeah, they had a videographer and photographer that came for the award ceremony for it. We still haven't seen where it got posted yet. Ken and I have been hunting the internet for it, and we haven't seen it pop up on there.
Yeah, we got to get your interview out there.
My interview's terrible. I would rather it not go up. He asked me like 2 questions, and it was like yes or no questions, and I tried to make it seem more important than that, and I sounded like an idiot. So I really hope it's just like, did you have fun today? Yes. Cut it there.
You just are waiting to get that nice trophy black die out and roll it to get that accuracy instead of the hit crit, right?
Yes. That's honestly what it is. It's going to be a big surprise. And then that's 12 damage and an accuracy from the side of my Gladiator 1, Ken. Good luck.
It's like a veteran status on one of your ships, John. You get to put the black accuracy out once per game, right?
Yeah. But if I do roll the winners thing, I think the game immediately ends. So that's a risk.
That's true. That's true.
So, okay, I think we could call it an episode there. Like always, You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcast and on the Ion Radio YouTube channel. And it's the Command Stack Twitter, right, Ryan, that you are running?
Command Stack Twitter.
And you're keeping track of like all the different newses and releases for things on that as well. So it's a really good place just to follow if you're on Twitter, just to get your news pulled in for you so then you don't have to go hunting for it. So until next time, I'm John.
I'm Ken.
I'm Ryan.
And you've been listening to the Command Stack.